accomplish for our mission, sometimes bringing the outside person in is a really great way to get your message inside. We also do consulting because we found that just for the same reason when you bring that outside person in, it's also really helpful when you bring a consultant in that you can throw under the bus later. And I say that with absolute seriousness. How many times have you hired somebody and they've been absolutely, utterly terrible? You have never, ever hired a bad consultant. Really? Oh, I was like, okay, let's try that again. How many of you have hired a bad consultant? Oh, you and I, we're gonna talk later. She's only hired good ones.
Oh, I haven't hired any.
Oh, at all? Okay.
That's my question.
I think that makes my point. But, you know, whether they're good or bad, there's always something that's lacking, right? But if the person internally on your team or on your board of directors has been saying the same thing as the consultant, it never has the same amount of impact. And I always think that's crazy, especially where events are concerned, especially when it's your donors or your membership, right? Using our internal voices can be really powerful, and the consultants that you can bring in can amplify those consistencies of, yes, this is a good pattern, or no, this is something we need to ignore. And sometimes it can disrupt the internal voices and help challenge some of those long-held beliefs. We call them the frozen middle. Sometimes this is the board of directors that's been there forever and ever and ever, amen, and won't go away. Sometimes it's that friend of the family donor you have that their family's been around for a very, very long time. They've given a tremendous amount of money. And my dear, would you have put the ice sculpture over there? I just don't know if it gives the entryway that certain something, right? It's the little things that matter about our events, right? And if people aren't comfortable, you're never gonna know that. The consultant can help point those little things out. It's sponsorship. 90% of the reason we do events is to raise money. Right? We do it for non-dues revenue. We do it because we need to underwrite the new lunchroom for the school. We need to do it because we need to pay for the signage and have some really great food at the upcoming event that we're doing at our user group. We need to do something, and it costs money to do those things. So we work with the corporations and we say, hey, we've got this really good idea and you make money for profit and we do it for the mission, so we're obviously better than you. That works real well when you sell things like that, right? No, not at all. Corporations speak a different language. Working with an outside group can help you translate that language so that you as the nonprofit can take the words that you do as an extremely competent organization and translate that to the for-profit people who sometimes look down on the nonprofits, even though at the end of the day, it's all just a tax status, right? And sometimes you get a better break because, hey, you don't gotta pay the same taxes. Exemptions, no, I'm just me. Photography, entertainment, blah, blah, blah. So, Events 101. It's all about personalized experience. Everyone laughs at this when I put this picture up because it's like, it's very hashtag millennial, right? You're like, I would like to take a selfie in front of this wall. And today, I'm gonna pose. And I'm gonna have Meta zoom in and zoom out. No, wait, I want portrait pose. Can I have portrait pose? No?
No, because then I have to get up and come closer to you.
Right? It's awkward. Like, you're like, why is that woman standing up there with her arms? We just came to hear her talk and talk about things, right? So now what we're going to do is instead we're going to have you participate in our first activity of the evening. I can see everyone's really super excited. So there's a user group that I belong to on Facebook. It's made up of a bunch of event professionals. It's called Crime Scene. Has anyone ever heard of it? Mm-hmm. It's incredibly macabre. It's just absolutely horrific. So if anybody's super sensitive at this point in time, now is the time that you go trigger warning, or as my team likes to call it, pineapple. Pineapple's our safe word. Your organization doesn't have a safe word? I digress. So Crime Scene is basically made up of a group of global event professionals in which we lay down and we reenact what it would look like if we were terribly murdered, if something happened inside of here. So inside the space, show me what it looks like to drape for if you had to tragically fall over. We're gonna assume it was a good death, right? It wasn't one of the really terrible ones that people write about. Coronavirus has invaded this room. Too soon to joke? I told you I was gonna be terrible, right? And so I am, whoop, definitely falling down and dying. I am here, and we're gonna take pictures, okay? You've got 2 minutes Make new friends, sit next to someone you haven't met before, and show me what it would look like. You don't have to lay on the floor. They've got several great chairs where you can lean. You may have passed away what is the giant volcano from Italy that came over and everyone was frozen in ash? There you go, Vesuvius. I'm here. Can anyone crime scene for me? Oh my goodness. I want to bring her home with me, y'all. All right. No, seriously though, it's time. We're gonna get up. We're gonna crime scene. Crime scene. Lay down. Pretend you're dead. Pretend you're dead.
One would be dying and one would be
No, everyone's gonna be dead. Oh yeah, there we go. She's got it.
I went to a lot of the events.
Okay, we've got one. We've got two. All right. Okay. Oh, good. All right. No, it's fine. She's like, all right, so we're going to take a couple of pictures here. Okay. Matt, can you help me take a couple of pictures over here? All right. Oh, I like it. All right. Okay, you were immediately revived. It's close to Easter, right? We're in Lent now. Now, raise your hand if you thought that was incredibly awkward and painful. Why was it incredibly awkward and painful? Right? Why else?
What are you doing with the picture?
Right. What else?
Oh yeah, you're throwing that picture out, right?
Oh yeah, no,
We
it's
didn't
not
sign
going where.
releases.
Oh, well, you did when you registered, but that's neither here nor there. Just kidding. Right? So it was awkward because we don't know where the pictures are growing, right? It's awkward because it was actually physically awkward, right? You don't know me. What's going on with that? There's absolutely no trust, right? A personalized experience can only happen if you know the people who are sitting in the space you are creating. They have to be feeling like they're actually part of your community. You don't know me from Eve. This is very strange. You came to talk about nonprofits and events, and I'm like, let's take pictures of dead bodies. That's not on brand for what this event is. Too many times when we move in and we try to disrupt an event, we try to do something that's shiny because it happened at the Super Bowl, or somebody's board of directors member saw it and it was like, this is amazing, and it's gonna be fantastic. They bring a speaker in who curses from the stage and you run a Christian nonprofit. Like, there's just different things that go, ooh, that was terrible. And it was a waste of our money, and it was a waste of our time, and it doesn't make our donors feel valued, and it sure as heck didn't make our staff happy. Was that really a good disruption, or was it bad? So that's the first. So we always do 5 things. It's really easy. I'm a big fan of lists. Nifty. That's how we like to remember it, because it's nifty and it's easy. Is it needed? Is this disruption really the right kind of disruption? Is it necessary? Are the things we're proposing to come in and make it happen really what we need? And I mean, take some time with this question, because it's like the big goal you have for the event. If you don't have a goal for the event, you are not ready to have the event. And that, my friends, is the simplest, most difficult question you need to answer before you go in. It's also the most simplest and the most difficult question to have as a secret. Do you have a goal? Do you know what you're doing with the event? Is it actually needed, this idea for the event? Is it necessary? Right? So we come in, we figure out a way to come, we're gonna have this thing, we've got an idea, we're gonna personalize it, and we're gonna think really, really, really hard about who we have in. And we're not gonna make it a ball pit if our donors are 65 plus and they're helping save the trees. This is gonna make the environmentalists crazy. It's plastic balls, right? Think about your people. These pictures look awesome, but that doesn't mean it's the right fit. An Instagrammable moment can be a lot of things, and it doesn't always have to be that. That's a certain audience. It may not be yours, and that's okay. Is it necessary? Is it needed, right? So we're gonna kind of fly through the rest of them. Is it innovative? So I like to go back to some of the things we talk about disruption. What does innovative mean? We're in a room full of technologists. Can anybody define the word for me?
Shiny new.
Shiny, new, interesting. All right, what else? Who else would give me a definition?
A unique solution.
A unique solution, all right? Shiny, new, unique. Anybody else?
Solves a problem,
Okay,
but doesn't always get solved.
I like it. What else? Innovation at its core is it creative, right? It's another way to do things, which I think is always interesting because we've used the word innovate like the word iterate. It's almost taken on a whole new life. It's supposed to actually do something at this point in time, when in reality, it's supposed to sit there and make your brain do things, which is tough for people who work at events because we actually want to do things. We want to make it bigger. We want to make it better. We want to make it flashier. We want to add confetti. Sometimes we want to add sparkles and extra lights. It just makes us happy. But you don't always need to do that, right? When you look to innovate an event, it's one of the things that's kind of like a natural growth pattern as you're thinking about it. So Krista, tell me a little bit about some of the events that your preschool could run.
Well, we do an annual fall event that is much bigger than just our school community. It's a very much of an Austin tradition.
Okay.
And it's intended to bring people together and not only raise money for the school, but really celebrate Austin in the sense that we have a mission of being open to all.
Okay. So you're community building in addition to that. So
Correct.
what makes some of the things that you do for innovative? How did it become a big tradition? Something like that doesn't sound very boring if it's become a tradition at this point.
I've only been in this job since the 8th, but no, I think
Oh,
it started because it was a grassroots movement.
Yeah.
And I think people who started the program like to come back and have that sense of, connection
Right.
with people that they were on, boots on the ground with.
Right.
So I think it's a sense of, raising money, but a reunion, coming back, revisiting an issue that speaks to their values.
So would you say the event is for the kids, for the parents, or a balance of each?
Well, at the end of the day, the event is to raise money for the children.
Right.
But it is a way to, connect our community through our mission.
Right. So everyone in the room has just heard her talk about the event and all of the things that make the event special. You've heard a little bit about the goal. You've heard about who it's for. How would you take what is basically a valued Austin tradition for kids and innovate that? How would you make it better? How would you make it more creative?
And on a budget.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes without saying.
Yes.
Seriously.
I might survey the people that have been involved with it and ask them for ideas to take it to the next level.
Okay. Yeah?
She says it for kids, so I'd make it for kids.
What does that mean to you?
I'd make it an adult playground. I'd make it so you have to go play, so you see what your money's going towards and so on and so forth. You can do the ball pit.
What else? It's tough, isn't it? When you start to think about it, there's a lot of different audience members, and innovation, especially when you throw the word valued Austin tradition in. All of a sudden you're like, oh my God, there's lots of stakes here. And I love your idea of taking it and surveying. But then once you survey, what happens when you survey a community about a valued tradition?
Don't get good data.
You get the same thing back.
You get some of the same thing back, right? But you also get really strong opinions about those same things. And so you've caused some of them to anchor in, right? So then you're presented with another dilemma of, oh God, is this really necessary? We want to change things. We want to move things up and get people excited about it. But is it really necessary? Is it really needed? The same thing is working. And that's the problem with innovation, but it's also the exciting thing about innovation. There's a lot of risk about it. And risk is one of the things that most event planners, and it doesn't matter if you're a corporate event planner, if you're an association event planner, you're a nonprofit event planner, you plan corporation events, or you plan birthday parties. Doing something new and risky is scary. Again, we're going to use the coronavirus as an example here. Right now, many major corporations are canceling multi-million-dollar events because they're risky. They're risky because they could hurt someone. Not necessarily because the data says that that's what's going to happen there. Really and truthfully, if you look at the odds, they're incredibly small for I would say probably 95% of these events. And these companies, some of whom can't necessarily take it from a financial perspective, are taking multi-million-dollar losses and the bad press that goes along with it. But they're doing it because it's risky. They did a breakout at PCMA in January. PCMA is the Professional Convention Managers Association. Basically, it's the association for event people. They put 85 event profs in a room and they said, okay, door A is an event in which you are going to make 3 times your normal amount of money, but you have to try 3 new things. Over here, door B, you're going to take a loss 2 times your normal amount of money, and nothing changes, but you will have absolute success and no one will get mad at you. Which door did the event planners take? Financial loss and confirmed success, or potential excitement over here?
Confirmed success. Confirmed success.
Confirmed success.
The one at your cleavage.
The one in my cleavage. Am I really cleavage? Right? Yeah.
The one
I was like, oh God, really? Hello, live stream.
between the two.
Yeah. No, there was no Bluetooth. They did. 80% of the room went with confirmed success. And when the person came in and the presenter opened it up, it was actually shown that had they gone with the one of those 3 times, once they dug in deeper, they actually would have had confirmed success, but no one even bothered to ask more follow-up questions, though the presenter had allowed the opportunity for them to do so. The planners heard them say, confirmed success, and it didn't matter that they were losing money. They go, this is the safe door. We will explore it no further. We can't change things. It's too scary. And that's kind of frightening, right? And especially as nonprofits, it's not our money. It's our mission. We're doing this for a good cause, which is scary as all get out when you come in and say, ooh, how are we gonna make this innovative this year? Is it gonna mean that so-and-so is gonna go without shoes because we won't be able to afford them because we didn't meet our quotas for goals, right? Is it going to mean that we're not able to fund this, that we're not able to help support that? And that's terrifying because it's not just, are we gonna make our annual earnings guidance? So when you're thinking about innovation, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something to be brave about. It's like I'm the little teapot, however that Disney movie goes. So that brings us to, is it financially viable? I like this one because financially viable goes into all of these things. It kind of ties them up with a neat bow. Is it necessary? Yes. Is it innovative? Maybe. Is it financially viable? We want to do the ball pit at Krista's event, but it's going to cost us $100,000. Why so much? I don't know. We'll blame insurance. That's always a good reason, right? Now that automatically means that kind of innovation we probably can't swing this year unless Google decides to come in and help us underwrite it. But it does mean that we can maybe do a cool blow-up house that has something similar to it where it's a little bit better. Just because you want to innovate and spice things up doesn't mean that you bet the house and like break it under. So financially viable shouldn't be the reason you stop either. But that's one of the pieces that nonprofits sometimes, we call it champagne taste on a Miller Lite budget. As an agency, I don't know how many times I've had somebody contact us and say, we want to hire you for an event. Okay. 250 people, we want to rent out the 4 seasons. Okay. Did you have somebody donate the space? What? The room rental. Did you have somebody donate the space? I don't know what that means. Well, it costs money to use the room. Oh, okay. And are you going to feed them? Oh, well, I don't think we'll need to. All right, how long are you going to be there? Well, we're going to be there, I don't know, 5:30 to 8:30 at night. I mean, maybe you feed them dinner, past hors d'oeuvres, something light. Yeah, chips and salsa sound good. We can do chips and salsa, right? I mean, we could. All right, what are you doing tonight? Oh, we're going to raise $3 million for the Nephrology Society. Oh, are you charging money? Yeah, we're doing $25 a ticket. Not a fake conversation. Not the Nephrology Society, obviously, that wouldn't be very kind of me to use them as an example, but not a fake conversation. And it happens a lot. It's tough sometimes as a nonprofit because we come in and things are having to be on a budget, right? We've got to make do with a lot of duct tape and baling wire, as we like to call it. But things cost money, especially in the events world. It costs money to have the banquet staff show up to serve the food. It costs money to have the food. It costs money to create the experience that you actually want the donors to come in. The exercise I always try to coach new event profs or people who are trying to come in on the nonprofit space is to say, okay, if I was coming in and donating money, what would I want the experience to look like? Use yourself as the target demographic, because you have standards for yourselves, right? And it's not to say that your attendees don't have standards. Some of them have very, very defined standards. But it's a really great way for us to kind of kick ourselves out of the small budget mindset that we have and go and find the money that we need. And if the money will not come, because sometimes you literally can't squeeze blood from the stone, then you have to reset and say, okay, this isn't financially viable. How can we go back to the innovation table and figure out what's really necessary for the event to happen? And each one of those, you have this clear logic, right? So it's a lot of if and then. We're technology people, right? We love if-then logic. If this happens, then that happens. If this doesn't happen, that can't happen. Create a little workflow tree and find ways to make it happen. And it doesn't always have to be you. How about your network of partners? How about your board of directors? How about all of the people who help you come and make this event and your normal organization day-to-day thrive? Each one of them have their own strengths and weaknesses, but usually they also have a place to fit inside your event ecosystem so that you're not the one constantly trying to find the money, to pay the caterer, to come up with the idea to like wow the MC stage, right? There's different ways that you can put an event together that's really simple, and sometimes because we're responsible for it, we stop to go, oh, that's right. Alice from accounting, her brother plays the cello. And I bet if we asked really nice, they might come in and for a $50 or $100 stipend, we can do this. Or so-and-so at church paints faces. Wouldn't that be really cool at this beloved community event that we're doing? And I'm not saying you have to do it all with these small favors, but it is something that as you're building your portfolio, you can spend the money where you really, really need to spend it. And then you can find other ways to pull it together. And then know this is where we actually have to concentrate the sponsorship ask. This is where we have to concentrate on maybe adding a non-dues revenue portion of this that's like, if we can't pay for it with ticket sales because it's going towards the mission, we can think of another way to pay for it. Maybe we run an alternative contest. Maybe there's some other ways where an education session or something that we're doing that isn't a quote-unquote fundraiser, because at this point in time, folks, people who work with and donate to nonprofits are sick and tired of fundraisers. All we do is ask them for money. We don't involve them. We don't have them get excited about the causes and the mission anymore. We say, you have to be part of this with it. And that means time. It means your money. It means your blood and your commitment. Now come to an event and let us celebrate together, comrades. You need to make it fun, y'all. I mean, just because we're asking for things that change lives doesn't mean that it actually has to be a life and death experience. And if you are gonna make it a life and death experience, make it a Gilmore Girls life and death experience where you get to do Omnia Parada and maybe hang umbrellas from the room and have a mini place where you can jump, take funny incriminating photos of them and have it come out later for whoever had the best photo. Because you're building the community, right? We go back to the very, very beginning of all of this. We have events because it creates a way for us to be face to face. We don't want to give money and do things together if we don't know them, we don't trust them. We don't have any of those things that tie us together. It's why at church they sing these ties that bind. It's why they talk about tithing as part of the responsibility of the blood that flows through you as a family when you join a church. Those same languages and vocabulary around it are the little things that make you go, I'm more than a dollar sign to them, right? So thinking about, yes, is it financially viable, but how can we do all these other pieces? What's in it for them? So if you had to think about the events you're working with, right? What is it? What's in for them? Can you name one thing about an event you've gone to recently? Because I'm not sure, Brian, who's recently here from New Jersey, if you plan them at all as an IT consultant. But you've probably gone to events, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so the last couple of events you went to, what was in it for you?
I actually did fundraising for a nonprofit in San Diego.
There you go.
So it's like a 2-month endeavor of, it's called the 100 Wave Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So we fundraise for that day and we pull in like about $500,000. Yeah. But for me, it's the joy of getting to serve with not only pro surfers, but these kids that we help out.
Right, and so for your donors, what's in it for them is,
The feel-good aspect of helping out kids without fathers.
okay, feel-good aspect of helping out. How about you? What's in it for you for the events that you're running? Oh, yes.
Running any events?
At all? Okay. The last
So
event,
you're picking on the wrong person.
I know, I'm wanting you to make things up. You have a quick improv mind. We don't know this about you
Okay.
yet, but I feel like you were a ringer planted.
Well, we have a lot of clowns. Yeah, big shoes. You're telling me to make something up.
I love you
So,
so much. All right, how about over here? The last
and
event
they
you
have
went to.
scissors, but don't let me slow you down.
No, no. Hector, how about you? What was in it for them the last time you went to an event?
But they learned something.
Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am?
I was at a Catholic Charities Luncheon last fall, and I sat with a group of friends and members of the DAR.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just great to sit there and be there and talk to them and have all those friendships at that
Yeah.
table. And then we actually learned something, because I get bored and I don't.
Pay attention.
I want to learn, go away and say, I learned today that they do this and this and this and they're really successful. Then I'm like, a soundboard or whatever out in the community, like, oh, did you know they just saved 10,000 people or what, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The DAR
So,
saving
but-
lives.
But as a person attending, actually it was the DAR attending the event.
Ah, okay.
We had our own table, so we were all members through genealogy.
Yeah.
But we were at a Catholic Charities event, so we had the fellowship, which was what it was about for us in part, but also the learning.
Got you.
The
Okay,
learning.
sorry, I'm sorry
So
that I
we
was
had
all
two
bird over
groups, we
there.
had
Yeah.
like two nonprofits really kind of involved in that scenario.
I like it. Okay.
But the fellowship of just actually seeing them in person, because
Yeah.
so much is online today.
Right.
And that was really heartening.
Yeah. So yours is very similar to this, but also over here. How about over here? What was in it for your attendees the last time you had an event or went to an event? Why did you show up?
Learn something, network with people. Generally, those are free food sometimes.
Let's roll honest, don't be shy. I go to events solely for the bar sometimes. It's true. You're better than I am. You don't go for the bar. Why do you go to events, Krista?
I think sometimes it's to be with your people.
Yeah.
I think that's
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
people, especially I think in our world becoming so divided, sometimes it's nice to go to an event where you feel like, you're with your tribe.
Yeah, I don't have to try. These people
Right.
already know me. I don't have to use so many words. They speak my language. Is that me? Is that you? Oh, sorry. I was like, I just wanted to make sure it was not my
That's me.
phone. Okay. Not one of you said, I go to an event to give money,
No.
right? Even if you are going to an event, and this is, I'm gonna pick on the DAR for a second,
Okay,
right?
go ahead.
The DAR hosts events solely just to have you give money, right? It was one of their time-honored traditions when I lived in DC. We would go, and it was basically $2,500 a plate. You put on a really great outfit. The Junior League does this too. They're both the most wonderful, amazing organizations that I belong to. But it's just one of those things where, like, you're going to give money, but you don't do it for that. You do it because it's fun. Your attendees, for the same reasons that you all just stated, do the same things. But that's the crux of why it is. Like, that's the goal of why we need to have it happen. So in order to have them give the dollars, and give the dollars gratefully, excitedly, happy, right? You need to create that immersive experience that makes them feel comfortable enough to sign the check over and not complain about it to their friend on Twitter later, or Facebook, or TikTok, or wherever your friends and neighbors are. If you're still in MySpace, tell me why and tell me how. Those little different pieces of what you're wanting to do. So each one of these things makes it really kind of easy and simple to put it into. So that was my much needed, here's professional speakers and the ways that you can use 5 letters and make some words, right? We want to think about it, is it necessary? Is it needed? Is the reason we're trying to disrupt our event a good idea? Is it innovative? Is it going to be cool? We don't want them to just come and think we're trying to milk them for money. We don't want to come and just show something off. And we don't want to go broke. Is it going to make sense? Is it going to make money? If we're not trying to make money, how are we going to do this so that it doesn't actually bankrupt us? And then what's in it for them and what's in it for you? As the event organizer, especially in a nonprofit space, we burn out. We wear 15 different hats. We make things happen with absolutely no money, a lot of prayer, and a lot of friends. And it can be incredibly stressful. On a good day, an event planner at a corporation, their job is number 5 in the top 10 world's most stressful events. It's first responders and then event planners. We've made that list like 6 years in a row, which is a little bit insane. And the worst part about it is that most event planners, we say it pretty proudly. My job is so stressful because I have to do all of these things. Have you seen my spreadsheet, Betty? Let me tell you what. And so it shouldn't be like that, right? Like, you should like what you do. Why would you do it if you don't like it? If you don't like asking for money, perhaps development is not for you. That's why they have program, that's why they have IT, it's why they have other ways you can support the mission. And I always encourage people, this is my contemplative portion of the event, think about why you're doing it. Really think about what's in it for you. Not just as an attendee, but as someone who has to go out and look someone in the eye and say, I want you to come be a part of my community. We are planning this amazing, amazing gala, and you have a seat at the table, and here's why. The joy, the happiness, the support you feel will come out. If you don't feel like that's the day we need to save the dolphins, friend, that's the day you lose a donor. That's the day you lose a supporter. And if you do it on the internet and you're like, blah, 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 this is just a post I'm putting out here to ask for money to have you come to my thing, hashtag sustainability, and then you complain about your job 3 tweets later, they're definitely not coming anymore. And they're gonna share it with like 20 more people, because now they can just screenshot that and pull it out there. Yes, all right, tech. So, now we're gonna get into some of the cool stuff. Influencers. Do you have influencers inside your nonprofits? People who, when they talk, people listen? Carolyn's an influencer, right? She just admitted it. She goes out to the events, the DAR, Catholic Charities, and she goes, look, they raised so much money and it was amazing. And she's so excited about it, you can't help but wonder, A, what they were serving at the DAR's luncheon, but also, why is she so excited? I want to find out more. Do you have those people at your organizations that you're working with? And if you don't, how do you get them excited? How do you attract them? How would you attract an influencer?
You mean like a influencer or influencer?
Well, what's the difference?
Sometimes when people use the phrase influencer, they mean like Kim Kardashian or
Oh.
something.
Well, but do you have to have an influencer like Kim Kardashian? Is she the kind of influence you want?
I'm wondering how you
Somebody
use
just
the word.
getting the word out, somebody who will really talk
Yeah.
it up, that kind of.
Honor them at your event.
Yeah, but I mean, I think she brings up an excellent point.
Cheerleader.
Yeah, I mean, what is an influencer, right? Is it somebody who has to write hashtag ad on the post that they sponsored for you? Sometimes it's not. There's a woman in the town I live, so I'm from Fort Worth. There's a woman who her Instagram channel is Fort Worth Woman. She isn't paid for a lot of her social media endorsements. She just loves Fort Worth. She loves the Cowtown, she loves the steer rising, she loves it when she gets to go out and she gets to wear purple when it's TCU and they're going to play football. Girl, she loves going to the dry bar because her hair can be this close to Jesus. And she takes her daughter Biddy and they go to movement and they go out and they have themselves a ball as they do the ballet. And she loves it. And that's an influencer. And she grew what was basically a social media account for Instagram of like 200 people to over 16,000 just because she liked talking about her city. And it was a bet she did with her dad because she was like, I'm not an influencer. That's silly, right? So it can be as simple as getting them excited, honoring them at your event, figuring out a way to get them excited about it. You could hire an influencer. There are people who do that. I went on an event in November and they hired a food influencer named Letty Sue to come. And Letty was amazing. Everybody hated her. She had just sold her company. She had 17 million Twitter followers and absolutely nobody knew what to do with her because she wasn't part of the tribe, right? It was a bunch of event marketer people and like everybody knew pretty much everybody on the airplane. We rode together on a jet together for 17 hours. It was a bonding moment. right? And by the time we actually got to Italy, everyone was so sick and tired of the 4 stories she'd been sharing that they made her sit in her own little area on the bus. And she was a delightful woman, but that's a way the influence can go wrong. So I think you bring up an incredibly valuable point about what is influence and do we actually want it? But also, how do you keep them happy? Do you have to give them awards? Do you not? Or do they come out of the goodness of their hearts because it's their tribe?
I was just gonna say, there's also, you know, an influential member of the community, maybe a donor already, whose endorsement is so influential that that person will attract others in that social set.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know, it's helpful to have that for sure.
Yeah,
you
the
know.
community foundations work like that. Fort Worth, we'll use Fort Worth as an example again. The reason Fort Worth is so successful in certain areas is because of the Bass family. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with Fort Worth, but the Bass boys, there were 4 of them, each one of them has gotten married and divorced several times. And so the many ex-wives, so one of the boys, Sid Bass, his wife runs the ballet in town. She doesn't actually run the ballet, but no one makes a move unless Anne approves it. Another one, his second wife, runs the Bass Performance Hall. And so she does all of the opera and the orchestra. And even though they perform on the same stage, they keep them very, very separate. But it's a good example of you can't do this or that. Like if you talk to the 2 ad agencies in town who run all the campaigns for these particular organizations, it's not the executive director who makes the choices for the actual end thing. For any event they throw, they do the big Nutcracker Gala every year, which also coincides with the major orchestral gala. And it comes down to whether Anne or Mercedes, it has availability and what they say goes. That's influence. And that's also an influencer. It can be for good and for bad. And so being really careful about friends of the family in other ways, that's one of those secrets of the nonprofit event space that we don't really talk about because we're not supposed to. When the influence is icky or it's controlling, and we all know who some of those donors are, or perhaps it's our staff, it's a founder, it's someone who's been part of the organization. It's like, ooh, how do we still get all the goodness and excitement and happiness and support that you bring for this thing that we're coming to bring our community together? But we also go, but you wore that latex event that one time, like Kim Kardashian did, and it just went poorly for Balmain. Or when the other Kardashian made the poor comment about Pepsi, and it just was very not a good diversity day. Think about the different ways they're using it, and as a staff member, how you can have that support to really produce an event without having to have the influencers say yes, no, or maybe. Artificial intelligence, it's a big jump from where we were, right? Like, where did that go? That escalated quickly. Using tech to come in and actually do your event, whether it's something small like this, all the way up to a big actual community gathering. You're gonna do a 2 or 3 day festival for your nonprofit. You're gonna find a way to run a concert. You're gonna do something where it involves getting people to both register, donate, show up, and continue to be engaged afterwards. Technology is a really wonderful way to do this, and the great thing about things like the chatbots, the artificial intelligence, the different ways that all of the systems integrate together. You can use a single Blackbaud platform to ask for money, and everything else plugs in. And this is one of the places where I think sometimes IT and events struggles together, because the way IT talks about it isn't necessarily the way the event planners talk about it. We get really excited about spreadsheets, and we get really super excited about like the way that the BEOs, which is a banquet event order, with all the food and the decorations will fit together in a room, and we don't really care outside of the fact that people need to register. It needs to show up in my database so I can send them confirmation emails. I can help make sure they get to the right thing so they're wearing the right outfit. My goals are completely different than IT's goals. So having somebody who works with these types of tools and bringing everybody together at the table is great. And event planners need to understand that we cannot do our jobs well without IT. Not using simple tools that will make your attendees' experience better because they expect it. You go to an event now, you do it with Eventbrite. You register in some way, shape, or form. People are capturing your information, whether it is a company, a peer, an advertiser, a corporation, or a nonprofit. Every time you click yes to the cookies, you are there. So make sure that you're using and leveraging that tech and ask them, do you have a nonprofit discount? What does that look like? Did you know I'm a tax exempt organization? I have my tax status certificate, more than happy to share it. What are different ways that you work? Do you ever sponsor events? How can we get together and make this partnership work for your community? How can we figure out how to get your staff involved in the fundraiser or gala or thing that I'm doing that's bringing human to human connection? Those pictures look amazing on a corporation's social media wall. Technology companies who produce event technology are absolutely no different. They need the goodwill too. Why not have your organization bring them goodwill and bring that goodwill to your attendees while you're doing it? So the integrations piece fits in with this. Does everyone know what I'm talking about when I talk about integrations? So it's the hub and spoke, right? So at the brain of your nonprofit is probably your CRM, or whatever it is that they're calling it in nonprofit worlds now, because there's a lot of different ways. Razor's Edge, Blackbaud, right? Whatever that thing is that's used to capture and hone your data. The electronic Rolodex. And inside of that is your marketing automation, it's your accounting system, it's the way that you figure out how to get your donor acknowledgements out. All these different pieces of tech feed in and feed out. It's your website. It's your texting machine to make sure that if a crisis happens, you from the Red Cross can capture the money and make sure the donation gets to the first responders in need. An integration helps basically pull that information in and if necessary, push the information back out. And if what I'm talking about makes absolutely no sense, you, my friend, actually do work on the programs and events side, and you need to go find an IT consultant like Brian immediately. It's important to have a translator. Whether you use an agency like Nifty, whether you go and you find an independent consultant, or you find ways to find someone on your own staff and take them to the NTC Nonprofit Technology Conference and help that accidental techie turn into someone who can be that bridge, it is going to save you money. And when your ED goes, but this costs money, you go, yes, and here's how much money we're gonna save over the next 6 to 12 months. Organizations that invest in event tech save something up to 50% in manual time that they gain back. Their errors go down by almost 65%, and they usually see between 47 and 67% adoption from attendees. That's 47 to 67% more people who can find your register now button, who can donate now, who will actually fill out the information with their first, last, and mailing address. All of the information that you need to make your organizations run and hum, those integrations can help you capture, because otherwise we're data poor and we're not able to actually give them things they need to do to help support the mission that we run. So this is for my special friend in the back, but I didn't know you were coming. This is actually more accessible than you think it is. And they don't always have to wear the funny goggles, right? Does everyone know what we're talking about when we talk about AR, VR, and all of that? 3D on your websites can be some of the coolest experiences out there for a nonprofit, especially if you're building something. Let's say you're running a campaign for a new building. You are talking about a new wildlife reservoir that you're building out, you're wanting to populate. You're building a new wing of the museum. You're bringing people in to experience something that they cannot necessarily fly and see. The fires that were happening in Australia, they used 3D to come in and help raise money because they showed over a map, here's exactly what's happening. It wasn't just the burnt koala, right? It was the actual danger zones where they flew in. And then this can actually just be a really cool way to, when you bring attendees in, to immerse them into an experience. You don't have to bring a roller coaster in. Get a pop-up installation and take someone on a roller coaster sitting in a chair, and that's the way you run them through. Do something as an experiential activation so that as they're coming in, it's that little bit of cool. That's where you spend your money on innovation, right? Something that ties into your mission, but isn't so far away from the cause that it seems weird. And that's a really neat experience because it's something that leaves people talking about it, because odds are none of the other nonprofits are doing it, makes you look cool, and it further shows a demonstration and a dedication to technology, which is something that helps all of your audience and your younger donors go, these people are still making a difference in my life too, and they're not so far out of date that it's my grandparents' nonprofit, right? Because that's the scary thing. The boomers are out there, they're like, yeah, we're gonna give you the money. The 24 to 28-year-olds, they're like, yeah, you seem kind of out of touch. You're using paper registrations. I don't even actually know what my parents' phone number is anymore. What's a yellow book? Little things like that, little tips like this. Even if you have the glasses and the goggles, it's like that little piece that makes them go, all right, you're still kind of cool, we could do this. It gets them involved, it gets them excited, and it seems cheesy sometimes. It seems like a gimme. But maybe that's what your organization needs to innovate. Maybe it's just something as simple as we just step in and go, hey, we are really bad at this. Joe Biden's gonna get up, he's gonna do a funny dance, but he acknowledges he's old. He acknowledges he's a white guy trying to dance. It's poorly done, but he makes the news because he's trying. Tech like this is exactly like that. You're trying. It may not be a good fit, but try. You never know unless you do. And then my final one, which is data, 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 data. Please capture the data. Don't just let it sit there, right? Figure out patterns. Why are people giving here but not giving there? Use something like Tableau, which has an amazing nonprofit discount that can help you forecast ways that will not only showcase how you can make your events more innovative and interesting, but it can also figure out ways that you can make your development and just your day-to-day operations giving more interesting. And Tableau's not the only one. Every major tech company out there, Salesforce, Box, Zendesk, they have some kind of impact program where whether it's customer service or CRM, there's a way for them to make their action happen so their employees look good to help your organizations run better. You're like a beta testing ground for them. Find ones that concentrate on data because nonprofits, it is the worst kept secret about us. We work with people all the time. And unless we use that face-to-face time, which is incredibly time intensive, we know nothing about the way that our users use stuff. We don't know why they give sometimes. We don't know how they give. If I walked up to, I would say 50 nonprofits, I would say maybe 10 of them could tell me the top 2 ways that their users donate. And that's terrifying because if the market does fall out from underneath us or a recession happens again, what happens to philanthropic giving? It goes away and we have to start really hunting and developing those funds and those monies. Because not only will the giving go away and dry up a little bit, but the support systems that so many of our underserved networks need and desire on, we have to have it. So each one kind of fits together, and we need to think about the different ways that we, from the events perspective, use the data to help get ahead of the curve on that.
I was just gonna say about that, I'm dating myself, I know, from my early career days working at UT Austin, and I worked with several, very affluent donors, and we had, computers, but we weren't at anywhere close to this level, of course. But I would make the accounting office let me see the check. It was my data collection. And they'd just say, oh, the so-and-so foundation sent a check. Well, I'd say, can I see the check? Well, it turns out it was actually the wife of the foundation donor who actually sent the money through her personal account. And so I would know that actually this is the wife's interest to support this thing, maybe not the donor I'm thinking, the husband. So I just would say that data collection, it's such a gold mine.
Yeah.
If you really spend some time collecting it and analyzing it, it just takes real time and concentration. And then, obviously getting set up at the start so that you're really ready to have it come flowing in. But
Yeah, I mean, the database logic holds
You can
true here.
change your
Trash
whole
in,
approach.
trash out, right? So if your database is coming in, it's absolutely wrong. And to Carolyn's point too, it's really good to have that information because it also helps you put the right development specialist, the right program specialist with that donor. If it's the wife's pet cause, you aren't gonna put the cigar CEO who plays golf. Right? You need to think about where the strengths need to be leveraged. Going back to how many people are gonna help us support this event. Who's the right person to make the ask? Who's the right person to do the registration desk? Who's the face we want representing this? It's as simple for development as it is for events. And sometimes we go, well, this was events, right? It's the event coordinator's job to do that. No, it's the CEO's job. It's the director of development. And it's adaptable. That's one of the last things that it's all of our jobs. This is most of our donors nowadays, right? Face-to-face events are really, really one of the only ways that we get together and we say, it was really great to see you. I mean, I love the fact that here at this table, I haven't touched my phone in an hour and a half. My iPod is going to be really excited because when it talks about my screen time this week, I am down 4 hours. I won't be, I'm on too many airplanes. But you know, it's like those little pieces like that where you go, okay, this is not our reality. This, with people looking at each other, is our reality. This, even though I forced you to have conversations, is our reality. Oh, they're kicking us out.
I think it might be pizza.
Pizza?
Oh, a bit late.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is where the email is coming from.
Mhm.
You know, who's actually making the reservation.
Yeah.
You know, these level of details are kind of the pool from which sometimes major gift campaigns are born.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, you know, I'm just gonna ask Michael Dell, he's in the newspaper all the time, but really, that stuff percolates from your organization up in those details, and you can start comparing, it's like, hey, that's actually your brother-in-law, or something, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you just can put the pieces of the puzzle together, and that's where the follow-up takes a long time.
Yeah.
Longer than you, if done well.
But I like that too because it's also a place where you can see they started off giving a small amount. It doesn't have to be major gifts, right? Or they volunteer. You can keep track of who's volunteered at events. This is one of the places where if you look at like, it's the Bank of America's Trust Wealth Management Report they do every year on high net worth individuals, US Trust. They talk about generationally how as we go through different ways that our life can do it, sometimes we're in our 20s, we've got discretionary cash, we don't, but we've got time, right? So we start to give of that, and then we move into our 30s, many of us have children, we have other obligations. So we start to give more money, but we're more strapped for cash. And so depending on where we are, you can kind of see, well, this person used to give a lot of their time. Now they're kind of giving, but they're not really giving a lot. We're gonna adjust where they are inside our score. We're gonna make sure they're getting invited to the right events that are on the weekends because it looks like weeknights are tough for them. Or we're gonna start structuring our events so they don't always happen on a Monday night at 6:30 because we live out, or the nonprofit's out in Cedar Park. And we are trying to attract workers who are down here. It's an hour and a half in good traffic to get out. Then you go into your 40s, you start to see more empty nesters coming. They start to come back in droves. They're coming in so you can collect more money from them, you can collect more face time, you can have more volunteers. Then they're in their 50s and 60s, and you're like, hey, there's people again, that's awesome. But it doesn't always work in that normal progression, right? We want our donor base to be a very good mix and mash of all of them. The people who work at the Grant Foundation that we're trying to get that big grant for, it's a 28-year-old development grant person I'm working with. Her goals and objectives are completely different than my 65-year-old donors who show up and tell me what they actually think. She doesn't know, she's just checking the box on the RFQ. So like having that data balance is crucial, and we wouldn't always necessarily connect it from our event strategy over here, but the technology allows us to bridge that. And you don't have to have a penguin for that, but it's important to know if she actually does like penguins, what's gonna really make her feel happy and valued, but also makes him feel good too, because his penguin is from 2001, because he, my friends, is an alumni. So, questions, comments? Oh my God, it's finally over.
Thank you. It's great.
Interesting. There's so much, you know. I just think it's more important than ever to have events, just like you said, like earlier we talked, because everybody's so online and
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't need to meet, or I don't need to, we can just talk on the phone, we can do video chat, whatever. But what is your experience with, you know, video now is kind of moving up, and 80%
It's
of
nice to meet you.
online communication is supposed to be turning into video.
Yeah.
You know, of one sort or another. What's your thought on all of that with events?
I mean, I like video, so like the live stream. There was a guy who hit me up on LinkedIn and said, hey, are you going to be live streaming this tonight, or would you rather come down to Houston and do this? I'm like, well, I don't know. Do they need the speaker in Houston? Is there someone putting a program together? He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So like someone's not going to pay to have me come down there, right? So the live stream gives us that option to make it go farther. Video messages it personalized out of a 25-page transcript. Just because the way I live my life, I'm on airplanes a lot. I've got 4 kids. I don't have time to sit there and watch the video. I do, however, to have time at night to read everything because it's quiet and it fits my lifestyle balance. So that works for me. I have an event marketer I work with here in town. She only likes video messages. She refuses to look at or open anything else because she says it doesn't necessarily fit the hug life. And in her world, a hug life is, A face-to-face interaction is far more valuable because it allows you to feel and touch that other person, allows you to hug, get the energy out, right? To an introvert like me, the hug life is like, no touching. It's like those bonding activities they make you do at leadership retreats. Carolyn, I want you to come and look. Not press. You be A, I be B. Do it now. And you're like, I don't, it's coronavirus. I don't want to touch her, right? It's June, and like, there's no coronavirus. Like, it's just, it freaks you out. Some of the other ones, it's like, what was the person at the event in Vegas, Meta? The life coach?
The life designer.
The life designer.
Designer.
Yes. Sometimes video can be like that because it's, well, how did she phrase it? In my car, I decided to quit my extremely well-paying technology job and travel the world by living in my back seat. And this is my journey. Okay? What are you trying to have me do here with this video? Do you just want to share you in your car and you haven't washed your hair? That's weird, right? As a nonprofit, we don't have that kind of time. Gets to the point. Or if you're building it, like, build well. You know, think about it like a treatment for a TV pilot. If you are, what's a good TV? I've been watching enough TV for this. Game of Thrones. The reason the last season of Game of Thrones didn't win is because A, there weren't enough dragons, and it ended poorly, right? The story wandered. There were all of these things, and it was always full of misdirection. But after the Red Wedding, it just went off the rails. No one knew where the story was going. Sometimes a video can be like that. It's a long road to a tiny house. You're just like, I don't know what you're trying to do here, and I don't know why you wanted me to press click. And because it was a poor experience once, I will never again click to watch your videos, right? You get one chance. And just because you can track the data of how long they've watched it, it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful if they bounce out 2 seconds in. And Google punishes you for that. Let that be a lesson, my friends. It's good for the search marketing unless your videos are crappy. Yes, that's the true secret, right? Okay. Any other questions?
Would you say to like nonprofits that haven't hit that tipping point to get an influencer yet? Like with the 100 Wave Challenge, it took them 3 years and they were maybe making like 100, 150 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they finally got an ex-world champion to be like the spokesperson. All of a sudden it blew up and they had $500,000 the next year. So, I mean, like, there seems to be this line where you like, you know, or the tipping point.
I mean, I think it goes back to what are you defining as an influencer? Why was that person important? Is it because it maximized the investment? Like, many people start a nonprofit cause of some kind. Like, the reason you start a nonprofit is because something happens. An event triggers it, and you need something that will support the mission. It fixes the problem. It helps solve something for cancer. It helps raise money because children don't have a father who can help them do pro surfing. And when you think about that, you already have a community of influencers. Some of the names are just more valuable than others. And so talking about the data, I would go back and find, through my data of people that were inside of that, find those compelling stories that I could use to do that. And I'd launch a hell of a viral campaign. And I say that from like field marketing. You go out and a nonprofit adage is that children and animals always do well. If you don't have a big name, find a cute kid or a cute animal. Find the reason you're doing it. If you really have a child who doesn't have a father who loves surfing so much that it's his or her life, that's your influencer, right? Tom wants to go out and he's wanted to do it for years, but he just wasn't sure and he was scared of the water. Sally thought it was amazing, but she didn't have someone who she could watch, figure out, and tell her, girls do this too. You know, those different pieces, those stories, they become your influencers, and eventually, because big names can't resist the lure of that kind of publicity, then, I mean, it's just, she's the one who runs my speakers group, and we talk a lot about this, how, like, it attracts the names, like, the glitter attracts that, and it looks, the perception is everything. The reason the Kardashians got so big from an influencer perspective, remember, it was because Kim made a sex tape. right? That was it. Like, that's the reason they have a multi-billion-dollar industry at this point in time. And then they took that and they changed the perception of what is basically tawdry adult film that was like bootlegged and turned it into something where they sell haute couture. And so find that good story, possibly not adult film, given the cost, and you know, amplify it. Like, if you have these stories living inside your communities anyways, figure out what it is that's that hook, and don't get hung up on the big name. And sometimes the amount of money that you're searching for isn't maybe the reason. You haven't found the right crux of what the mission is, and that's the turnkey for why the money isn't coming as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And sometimes people who are totally not influential have amazing contacts.
Yeah.
That's, I found that major gifts where I'm like, oh, this board is horrible, and then I'll start talking to them and they, oh yeah, I went to high school with somebody who's running a Fortune 500.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And so you can't ever assume, everybody's important somehow, you know?
And that's actually an incredibly valuable point. Like, a lot of times, the people sitting on your boards, unless they're already, like, somebody in society has told them they're important, they don't think they're important.
Right.
And many times we put people on our board who have so many other obligations somewhere else, they are overstretched, and they no longer, even though they are important, they are no longer valuable. I would rather have 10 committed volunteers on my volunteer board who want to go out and beat the ground and like find the ways to amplify my mission than have 3 amazing, overstretched Bass Brother ex-wives. Just because, I mean, yeah, but like, her focus is the ballet, her focus is the zoo, her focus is the orchestra. There's nothing left for me in my nonprofit. And though the name looks good on my invitations when I send them out, she's not really gonna be present when I need her. And so, she's amazing for this, this, and this, but God, if we had them, that would be something else. And probably so-and-so went to school with so-and-so's sister, and the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon come out. I can say 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon here, right? I was doing
You
a
said
CRM.
1 degree.
Huh?
I saw him on the street.
Did you?
Whoa.
I don't know if you're telling me the truth or not now.
I am, I lived in New York.
No. I'm also suspicious now.
Yeah, no. If I
What
don't
else?
lie, I just make things up.
Anything else? All right, well, we'll send it out. If you want to text NIFTY to 33777, we'll send you the deck, and then I have a how to do nonprofit events on a shoestring budget. So it's 33777 NIFTY. We'll send you the stuff. If not, I'll give it to Carolyn.
Yeah.
She can send it to everybody. For those who randomly drop by tonight, thank you for your time and
Okay,
attention.
my pen wasn't pointed, nifty what?
Just NIFTY, NIFTY,
That's,
and text 33777.
And if you give me a PDF, I'll upload it, and it'll be on our event page on the N10 website, and we'll have the link to this broadcast too.
And to any of the Bass family members who might be listening, I do actually love your philanthropic efforts, and I am grateful for
They're
everything
pretty
you do
amazing.
forward.
and you know, the sisters bassinets, you
Mm-hmm.
missed that.
I did. It was an easy joke, and I just didn't
It
like.
was such an easy.
I know, but see,
I
A,
really wanted to shout it out.
there really aren't any Bass sisters. That's what's always so fun.
I know.
But
There were cheerleaders, bassinets.
oh God, you're just so good with the language too. Copywriting is the future for her, guys.
Well, I'm fast.
All right. What's next? Oh. Thank you.
And y'all, we
Thank
have
you.
a sheet, speaking of capturing information, so please do sign and look at these cards. Please pick up a card, wonderful cards, and now we have tacos, so please enjoy.
Wow. You can take them
Or
with
take it
you.
with you, yeah.
And you're headed to Houston
Okay,
now?
so.
She's going home to College Station tonight, and I fly out from Miami in the
Oh,
morning.
Miami, that's right.
Okay, so before you fly out, guide me on what you were telling me to do. I'm sure I did it wrong. I typed in 3377 and typed in should probably not know what to do.
Yeah.
Was it 33777?
Yes.
Oh. So he
I-
was thinking maybe one of those.
Okay, I probably.
No, I didn't get it after 2-3 times.
I even made her repeat it and I didn't get it.
Okay, so just reply with your email, and then it should send it out.
So with an email?
Yeah, so it'll, once you add in the 33777, an automated message will say, give us your email, and
Okay.
Yeah, jump in our database,
Yep,
And then we will send you something about it.
yep. I promise to send you things.
Yes. Thank you, that was lovely.
Absolutely, it was fantastic to have you.
It was. Fantastic people.
I love it. Hi.
Jinx.
Okay.
What is your nonprofit?
Yeah, well, I mean,
I thought maybe you saw me, you know.
I did.
in like the 90s.
You were my right street.
But they
But
they
now-
mentioned us
Yeah.
with
That was pretty interesting, because.
no, this is an organization I worked with.
Why are you
So what you guys, you work with a company, right? You work for a company.
Yeah, no, I.
Entrepreneurship and-
Would you
yeah.
say
So
you're
what do you
software
do
driven?
beyond that?
Then
So-
other event planning
Yeah.
is.
We do a lot of software
So,
implementations
it's kind of
because I'm
fun.
fascinated by it. When I first started out in
Yeah.
events, I was the youngest
Oh,
person
really?
in the
We
room.
could use you.
And so that's
Um,
when all of the integrations in the technology space were kind of blowing up. It was like a wild
Which is
west.
basically
And I had to
things like
learn
cutting off
how to
bugs
do
too.
like I learned how to code websites and build webhooks and figure out how the APIs work together. Because back in the day, there weren't integrations. There was a lot of duct tape and a lot of alien wire. And we were on a budget still, right? And I was
But
trying to do
here, these
it.
horrible things illegal.
And so I helped
They're really just.
I made it a priority to learn, and it's been one of the things that continues to work for my agency, because like we're HubSpot and Salesforce Platinum.
Oh,
And so if you wanna do an event marketing campaign, but you don't have an event marketing
I actually
platform,
have
cool. We'll you are counseling one of our.
Yeah. Counseling,
Right?
It's
And then we'll do the event marketing thing, but you're gonna do it just a better way, rather than outdated methodology you've had. And it fits inside of the thing, because events are about building connections, not just one side, so before and after. And if you don't have the marketing and the sales or development
People are still doing them,
I
even
would
though they're
say
not right.
you can't be successful.
Very good.
So I guess the answer to that is kind of,
Yeah.
but I mean,
That's really interesting,
Do you have
because,
a art or a?
Yes.
I would say that's, one thing you did right.
Are you
I'd say
that?
that
I
you did a
do
lot
two
more
parts.
things.
This is the one that I hand out when I'm trying to talk to people.
I don't know what to say, but anyway.
it's okay. The rest of the information was in these valuables, that was a piece that was.
This is my
Right,
first one.
yeah, so it's interesting, because when, my mom is in the
Like
tech
you
market,
said, kids are not.
and,
As
right now she works with
Yeah,
wireless
yeah.
charging, but before it was
That's a whole-
products and all kinds of stuff, and
Yes,
we
that's
talk about it all the
Yeah.
time, because when she started out,
Yes,
it was like 20 years ago.
And actually, some of the
And
director of legislative affairs.
back then,
for me is